Hi, I'm MJ Aragon, the purple-haired Fibro Warrior. We just want to thank you all so much for following, liking, sharing, and subscribing to our YouTube page, our Instagram, on WordPress, and Facebook page. Everything that we do is shared on our Facebook page, so anything you want to find, you can find it there. Thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart. You are not alone, neither am I. Love y'all. Hello, welcome to Fibro Warrior, My New Normal. I'm MJ Aragon, and I'm here with my producers, Jojo, Myricks, and Tony Jefferies. Today I will be sharing a blog that someone wrote. Name is Deborah. Emerging from the Dark to the Night blog. It's Trust, Truth, and the Depth of Connection. It's a really long title. And I'm going to go see family and stuff soon, and I haven't seen my sister in many moons, and then my sister and her family in many moons, and my aunts and uncles. For my aunts and uncles, I haven't seen in a couple decades, which is really sad. But we live so far away, and life just gets in the way, I guess. And no one really likes to fly, and so I feel like it's my time to go and reconnect with family, because it's been way too long. And airports make me very stressed out. I love the plane ride. The plane ride's a joy. I love being on a plane, but the airport itself, I get so stressed out. So I'm not looking forward to that part, but I am really happy that I'm going to get to see all my family. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be in Florida, and I will be in Maryland, and then come home. So I'll be back here for Christmas, of course. And then I'm going to read a blog. It was actually the one I originally wrote on our original first episode that we had to re-record. I'm going to read that blog, and I was going to talk about tea, but now I don't know what I did with the tea blog that I found, so maybe not do that. Anyway, I'm going to read Deborah's blog first, and then I'll read my blog. So hers is, okay, it's called Trust, Truth, and the Depth of Connection, reflecting on the consequences of avoidant attachment. And once again, her blog is called, her name's Deborah, but her blog is called Emerging from the Dark Night. Trust is so important to feel safe enough to be true and real. And sometimes we have to take the risk to trust. But if trust has been precarious or ended in abandonment a lot before and in our young early lives, it makes it harder for us to ask for support. Allow ourselves to feel it is safe enough to safe enough to be the real and true or honest. We may need to move into denial, self-negation, and avoidance as a defense. We may come to believe that we have to survive alone, keep our real self and true feelings, thoughts, and perceptions hidden. We may learn that we cannot depend on, and therefore we won't realize or accept that others need support at times. We may come to feel that expressing needs is a sign of weakness. We may then develop a false self of who is strong and invulnerable, when really that is not the truth of what we feel inside. We may, unknowing, construct elaborate differences to keep opening, connecting, trusting at bay. Welcome to avoidant attachment. I'm currently reading the chapter, Keeping Love at Arm's Length, in the book I mentioned in an earlier post attached, The New Science of Adult Attachment, and it's been a bit of a disheartening experience for me, as I recognize not only elements of my last partner's way of reaching out, but also my own, and it now appears to me that for most of my life I have switched between anxious and avoidant attachment defenses, both of which come out of the challenges of a childhood, adolescence, and early adulthood, in which I learned I really couldn't trust, lean, or depend on others consistently. In fact, I can look back now at times real help has been offered to me in later years, and it was difficult for me to accept it. And I am coming to think that even running off to the UK following the end of my marriage all came out of desperation, and avoidance, and fear, and led to that major head injury. My only salvation is knowing I am absolutely powerless over the way I responded due to a traumatic history in the past. I was doing the best I knew at the time. I see how as much as others affected me in my youth. Now, as an adult, I have a responsibility to see how my own reactions may have led to pain or caused pain for others. Most especially in my last relationship, I found it hard to trust. At the same time, I attracted someone who would not allow me to have needs and genuine feelings, even anxious ones. Possibly my feeling these evoked his own defenses, and so we came to blows. Anxious people often attract avoidance, which is the genesis of the distance pursuer pattern in relationships. A secure person will soothe the anxious person's fears. The avoidant will just shame them or accuse them of acting crazy. The saddest thing, too, is that in a relationship with or as an avoidant, just as you start to collapse your defenses and get close to something happens to pull back and on either side, and closeness is thwarted. For the avoidant, they learn to look at the person they are in a relationship from the glass half-empty perspective. In one way, this happens just as real feelings of desire for connection and intimacy arise. The avoidant person then looks for the flaws in that person to justify why they should withdraw or pull back. This pattern relates to the work of Robert Firestone I touched on in an earlier post, which relates to why and how destructive critical inner voices develop with start to tear the other person apart, or list a myriad of reasons why we should not connect to reach out in love. Hidden deep inside this pattern are unconscious fears of not being safe or being hurt or rejected. The avoidant may demand perfection of a partner rather than be willing to accept a real and true, authentic, warm human who may have some flaws, but also has good qualities. Research has shown avoidants rate people less favorably when they're acting in a supportive, caring, or loving way, due to their own dismissive attitude towards connectedness. They start to see the glass half empty, or a worm in the apple, rather than the apple itself. At the beginning of my last relationship, I had a very powerful dream, in which inner feminine figures told me I was going to be used by the person. I am not sure now if these were the protector figures of my own inner psyche, which I also read about in Donald Cowshed's book, The Inner World of Trauma, to explain why, at critical points in therapy, the person will get inner messages telling them it isn't safe to trust or open up to the therapist for fear of being hurt or misunderstood, as we were in the past. He also claims that often these inner protector figures will function to arrange someone's suicide. It's all a protection mechanism driven by the depth of pain and loneliness of the person's past. Who knows? It could have been a warning dream, as in the end, he did abandon me, but most of all, our difficulties came out of not being able to trust, open up, and get beyond our old childhood defenses, which is sadly what I now realize, and I also see that part of my own need to avoid at times played dovetailing with his. In addition to avoidant people, since their emotions, feelings, and needs were not taken seriously or respond to with empathy in childhood, will not be able to read the emotions and cues of others a lot of the time. They may reject need and feelings in others. This was my experience with my past partner. He once told me that I was not allowed to have needs of my own, and if I did, he would not put them first, since his own always came first. People looked at me aghast when I told them in my recovery group and asked me why I stayed. Because that was what I was used to, childhood. A childhood in which I was conditioned not to need or hope for too much. I now look back with sadness about how at a time in my marriage I was also not able to read the needs and feelings of my husband. There were times I left him alone and then told him he wasn't allowed to have his feelings about it. At the time I was trying to work on my own therapy, a therapy he tried to tear down due to his own insecurities. If I had more emotional maturity at the time, I would have seen his anxiety and insecurity as a call for empathy and soothing. But at the time, I could not. I was still very early in my own emotional recovery at that stage. If you do have an avoidance style, it doesn't have to be a life sentence. The purpose of Levine and Heller's book is to provide strategies for avoidant people who react in different ways to expression of need in relationship, how to identify when unrealistic expectations are beginning to poison promising relationships, and help with understanding why and how defenses of the avoidance style operate if you wish to grow and change. Change of old attachment and unconscious reaction patterns is possible if we have the capacity to be honest and engage in self-reflection in order to improve both inner and outer connections. But we have to be willing to engage with our fears and own them while having the courage to open up, let go, and find a new way forward. Deborah. I wanted to read this because I know that there's a great deal of us that have that avoidant attachment, and that fibro, because fibromyalgia comes from a variance of, what's the word I'm looking for? I ran out of Adderall, so I'm having a little hard time today. I apologize, guys. Traumas, any traumas you had in your childhood. And so that in turn makes us who we are as adults because of things that we've learned and the way that people treated us and how we reacted. It kind of moves on through life and just keeps moving on until we actually understand. And it takes a great deal of time to understand that that's what's happening. And you really have to search within yourself, and you do have to go see somebody and a therapist or have someone that can help you work through it. Because if you don't find a way to work through it, you're just going to continue the pattern. And it took me a long time in my life to get where I am now. And I've learned a lot. I've healed a lot. I've forgiven a lot. I've made a lot of changes in my thought process, the way I feel about myself, the way I feel about others, and it's helped me a great deal. Deborah, I'm not sure how long ago she wrote this blog, but I will attach her blog or whatever, her link to this when we post it. And I'm not sure how long her journey has been and how far she's come at this moment, but it sounds like she's working hard on herself. And we really have to do that for ourselves, because if you are happy with who you are, it makes everything else so much easier to deal with. It's easier to forgive. I'm not saying to forget things that have happened to you. We've been through horrible things, a lot of us in our lives, which is why that we are dealing with this illness that we have now. But if you learn to try to heal your thoughts, heal your heart and make yourself stronger in that way, because we can't cure fibromyalgia, we can help how we think about things. Having a positive thought process is very helpful. I'm not saying it's going to fix everything, but it will help a certain part of an aspect of your life that will help with other areas. And so that's why I wanted to read that. I thought that she was making some really valid points. I don't know about you guys. I don't know what I did with what I was going to read about the tea, but I drink a lot of tea. Now, caffeine isn't necessarily awesome for us, so I try to be mindful, and I just have tea when I first wake up to get me going, and I have, I take my medications and stuff. And then if I have something else to do in the evening, I might have tea again. We might stop at Starbucks or something and have it again. But I really try to be conscientious about not having too much and staying away from Red Bull, which is really terrible for us. But I do drink a lot of tea, and my favorites are chai tea. I love chai tea. I love the spiciness. I love the cinnamon in it. I drink that one more often than not. And then green tea is my second. I love green tea matcha or the green tea zen. They have a good deal of caffeine in them, but it doesn't affect me where I'm jittery or anything. It's enough to get me going and get me up. And if I have things to do, I can get those things done. So that is good. And then once in a while I have coffee, I like the caramel coffee. It has to be sweet though. I can't stand, I don't know how people drink it black. I'm sure that's probably way better for you, but I can't do that. I like sweet things, and that's kind of my little, I don't eat a bunch of junk. I try not to anyway. So that's my go-to for something sweet. And I wanted to read that other blog that I read last time that we had to redo. Okay. So I wrote this blog in October it looks like. It's number 22, and it's called Ever Changing. I haven't had a chance to really just live. I've thought about my life constantly, trying to figure out how to navigate through it with each thing I've endured. Abuse, molestation, emotional, obstacles, disappointments, losses, and of course my illness. If I had known what was wrong with me long ago, from the beginning, things could have been very different. I'm sure of that. Different good? Who knows? But different nonetheless. If I continue to look back, wishing that things could have turned out more positively, I would never enjoy anything. It's been a long journey, but I'm learning to let the past stay where it is, little by little. That I cannot change it or the people involved. I can only forgive, accept, and find peace within myself. I'm not saying things won't crop up occasionally. Of course they will, and they do. But I can say that I'm a better person for letting it all go. This has taken me decades. I'm 48 years old now, and I have no idea what kind of timeline I have left. I can only make the best of whatever it is and appreciate it. Finding the good that's still there, making amends whenever needed, and enjoying the little things even more. Realizing that you cannot change others, but you can change how you perceive them. And on occasion, that's all you really need, just a new perspective. I work hard on myself, my Fibro Warrior, my new normal, and my want to have good relationships with my loved ones. On occasion, I'm overwhelmed, distracted, and just simply too tired and in pain, but I still try to give it my best. In others' eyes, that may not be enough, but we cannot count on them to react the way we'd like. That's just not practical or logical. None of us think or feel exactly alike. So expecting that from someone is just a letdown waiting to happen. I promise you. So all you can actually do is your best. That will have to be enough. Stop blaming yourself for everything. Each encounter you have has one or more personalities involved, and every outcome will be different. If you take that same conversation and replace just one personality, just one, then the outcome will never be the same. If you realize and accept this reasoning, you will find some relief and even some happiness. You're responsible for yourself. If you know you are doing the right thing, have the resolution to stand by your decisions. We are all imperfect beings, so we all make mistakes. Spend less time pointing fingers and more time on improving yourself. You will be happier. You will be a happier you, even if no one else changes. I can tell you this from experience. Love yourself first. Yes, as selfish as that sounds, it is the right thing to do. Then everything else will eventually fall into place, seem brighter, easier, and much more pleasant. On a side note, now this again is from a couple months ago, or last month. On a side note, I had just attended my Palm Springs High School 30-year class reunion. I was excited, yet having some trepidation, thinking I may be too overwhelmed by it all. I think I've helped my mind and soul so much that I had the confidence and courage to just be me. Needless to say, I enjoyed myself immensely. I had amazing conversations with old as well as new friends I made that night. Bill, my love, and I went with Mona, my best friend from high school, whom I have remained friends with over all these years. I was lucky to have her in my life then, and even now. Never an argument or disagreement between us, just friendship, love, and respect. We all enjoyed ourselves, and I'm so happy we went. Although I'm paying for it still now. I was feeling a little funky for a few days. It took me a little while. I was so damn tired and aching, but it was worth it. Enjoy life in any way you can. We'll never know when our last day is near, and until that moment comes, make your existence count, even if it's just in the smallest ways. So, you and I and all of us, if we just work on ourselves and try not to let people's reactions, the way that they perceive us, try not to let that bring you down too much. I know it's difficult, and especially our loved ones can hurt us the most, but if you heal yourself and believe in yourself and know that you are trying, you're giving it your best, then you can feel better when someone says something that's not nice. You can still be okay with that because you know that you're trying. You know that you've given your best. You know that you're not the lazy, whiny, whatever person that whatever they may say to you. You're not that person. You can't help that you have this illness. You did not ask for none of us asked for this illness, and you will be stronger because you believe in yourself. And that we have to believe in ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves first. And then we can deal with everything else. Everything else becomes a little bit easier. The more that we feel good about ourselves, each thing is less of a struggle. The staircase doesn't seem so long. The road doesn't seem so bumpy. Things will improve. I have a lot going on. I have a biopsy that I have to have done, my second one, on my uterus and ovaries. I may have to have a hysterectomy, which is probably adding to my stress. And it's very possible for me to have a stroke, which I spoke about on the episode we just recorded before. Once again, wearing the same thing, in case you're wondering. So with all of this stuff happening, and I was a wreck yesterday, with all this stuff happening, I got up today with a positive mindset and told myself that I can do this. I can get past this. I can do what my doctor said and take the medication I need to take and keep myself calm and not let things get to me. And it's not an easy thing to do, but I think I'm mastering it a little bit. And I think that as the days go by and I deal with what's happening, that it will get a little bit easier for me. I'm not saying that I can stop from having a stroke. I don't know if I can, but I'm damn sure going to try. I'm not giving up. I'm not exiting this world without a fight. So you can know that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And as y'all know, you're not alone. I love y'all. I love you. Bye.